I'm saying it's 10:02 right now, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I know um, Dr. Witherspoon is on, and I'm gonna pass it on to him. And before he gets started, I want to say good morning, everybody from the state conference. My name is Barry Jefferson. I have the pleasure of serving as the state conference president, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to Dr. Witherspoon if he's available. Dr. Witherspoon.
Thank you, President Jefferson. As has been stated, my name is Marcellus Witherspoon. I'm the second vice for the Arkansas State Conference, and I serve under Barry Jefferson, our illustrious president. I was going to introduce him, but he has introduced himself. So we're going to keep this train rolling. This is June, so this is Men's Mental Health Month, and we are excited about that. And we have a distinguished panel on today, and I will read their bio, have some biographical sketches, but I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge our wonderful, fabulous chair of the Health and Wellness uh, Committee for the Arkansas State Conference, Mrs. Juanquita Nettles. I don't know if she is available and would like to have words at this time. I'll give her an opportunity.
Great day, everyone. I am here navigating this technology. Just want to say thank you to our state leaders, our expert panelists, and the men of this great convention, the Arkansas State Conference of the NAACP. We're just excited to have this conversation. And we thank all of our panelists, and our esteemed second vice president will be reading all of their bios, and then we'll move from there. And Mr. Kendrick Lusk will take over from there. It's back to you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Vice President.
Thank you, Chair Nettles. She does an amazing job. It's just taken us to a whole nother level in the Arkansas State Conference. Okay, so let's introduce our panelists today. I'm going to start off with Dr. Antionne Alcorn. He is the founder and owner of Thrive Counseling and Consulting Services, of I Thrive, and author of the book From Surviving to Thriving, a 30-day devotional of faith and therapy. He is a licensed professional counselor and healthcare leader. He is passionate about promoting mental health awareness, emotional wellness, and community healing. He brings experience in counseling, leadership, faith integration, and advocacy to conversations centered on resilience, reducing stigma, and empowering individuals and families to thrive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Welcome, Dr. Antionne Alcorn. Dr. Alcorn?
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
thank
Good.
you. There was a lot of good stuff in that bio that I'm sure we're going to delve into today. Um, Next, we have Mr. Matthew Lloyd. He is a licensed professional counselor, registered play therapist, and behavioral health leader dedicated to expanding access to quality mental health services and community support programs. He is a native of Jonesboro, holds a specialist degree in mental health counseling, and has a bachelor's in marketing management from Arkansas State University. He is the founder and owner of Secure Foundation Counseling, a growing behavioral health agency providing outpatient counseling, trauma-informed care, family services, and supportive mental health programs for children, adolescents, adults, and families. Through his leadership, the organization has expanded its reach by developing multidisciplinary services focused on emotional wellness, community collaboration, and person-centered care. He also serves as CEO of Sure Foundation, a 501c3 organization committed to serving individuals and families experiencing hardship. Through programs such as Hope House and Back on Track, the organization provides supportive services for individuals who are unhoused, at-risk youth, and those transitioning back into society following incarceration or involvement with the legal system. With a professional background that blends counseling, leadership, and community outreach, Lloyd is passionate about helping individuals achieve emotional stability, personal growth, and long-term success. His work focuses on strengthening individuals, families, and communities through passionate care, practical support, and access to quality behavioral health resources. He and his wife, Kimberly, are proud parents of 3 children and grandparents of 5. Mr. Lloyd, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we're going to move to Dr. Curtis Keith. Dr. Keith is a dedicated leader in behavioral health, public service, and community advocacy. He currently serves as the Assistant Director of Quality Living Center, where he has worked for the past 24 years, helping individuals and families impacted by substance use and mental health challenges. Dr. Keith is also a licensed professional counselor with extensive experience providing counseling, support, and guidance to individuals seeking recovery and personal growth. In addition to his clinical and leadership roles, Dr. Keith earned a doctorate in healthcare administration, bringing a strong foundation in healthcare systems, leadership, and community wellness initiatives. He also faithfully serves as Justice of the Peace for Pulaski County for the past 18 years, demonstrating a long-standing commitment to public service and advocacy within the community. Through his combined experience in mental health, healthcare administration, addiction recovery services, and public leadership, Dr. Keith brings a unique and impactful perspective to conversations surrounding men's mental health, mental wellness, and the importance of community support and access to care. Dr. Keith, welcome.
Good morning and thank you. And good morning to everyone.
Good morning. And we also have Pastor Billy Burris. Billy Burris is a seasoned behavioral health and forensic service leader with more than 4 decades of experience strengthening Arkansas's mental health systems. He is a graduate of Lyon College with a BA in social work and psychology, and the University of Arkansas at Little Rock with a master in social work. He has served in pivotal roles across state agencies, hospitals, and community programs. As Assistant Director of Children and Forensic Services for the Division of Behavioral Health Services, Burris directed statewide initiatives supporting youth with emotional challenges and led Arkansas's community-based forensic system. His expertise has guided evaluator certification, forensic hospital operations, and statewide law enforcement training on mental health crisis response. A respected educator, Burris taught social work at Philander Smith College and the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, shaping future practitioners with real-world insight and academic rigor. His career includes extensive clinical work in psychiatric assessment, crisis intervention, and forensic evaluation across major Arkansas institutions. A sought-after presenter, he has delivered workshops and conference sessions nationwide on mental health, cultural diversity, and forensic systems. Burris's leadership extends to national and state committees, including service as chair of the executive committee of the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors, Forensic Division, and long-term membership on the Arkansas Sexual Offender Assessment Committee. Since 2006, he has also served faithfully as the pastor of St. Peter's Missionary Baptist Church in Little Rock. Pastor Billy Burris, we welcome you. Right. I wish I was getting paid by the word. Last but not least, we have our distinguished facilitator this morning, and that is Mr. Kendrick Lusk. He is a member of the Jacksonville branch. I know they are rooting for him this morning. Usually you hear Jacksonville branch. Jacksonville. Um, so Kendrick Lusk is a native of, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. He's a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He's an educator, retired U.S. Army officer, and veteran servant leader whose life and work reflect resilience, discipline, and a deep commitment to uplifting others. With more than 25 years of leadership experience across education, law enforcement, and corrections, he has dedicated his career to helping individuals grow, overcome challenges, and realize their full potential. He currently serves with the Arkansas Correctional with the Pine Bluff unit, where he provides GED instruction to incarcerated individuals, fostering educational growth and supporting successful reintegration into society. His educational journey reflects a strong commitment to lifelong learning and service. He has earned a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from UAPB, a Master of Arts in Business and Organizational Security Management from Webster, a Master of Education in Educational Leadership from Lamar University, and an Ed.S. degree in Educational Leadership from Arkansas State University, and is currently pursuing a doctorate of education in rural and diverse educational leadership at Southern Arkansas University. He is a Silver Life member of the NAACP, a life member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, the American Legion, and Veterans of Foreign War. He remains committed to civic engagement, mentorship, and community impact. He is also a dedicated fitness enthusiast who has completed ultra marathons and Ironman triathlons, experiences that have strengthened his belief in perseverance, wellness, and purposeful living. It is an honor to serve as a panelist. So we believe and we are appreciative for Mr. Lusk this morning. Welcome. And with all that being said, I'm going to throw it to Mr. Lusk, who's going to facilitate the furtherance of this panel discussion.
All right, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. All right. So today's conversation is both timely and necessary. Across our communities, Black men are carrying visible and invisible burdens. This space is designed to bring truth, provide clarity, and hope, grounded in clinical expertise, our lived experiences, and our community wisdom. We're joined by all our distinguished experts, as we've already reviewed and went over their bios. So let's get right into it. So to begin, I'd like to ground us in a shared understanding of what we mean when we talk about mental health in the lives of Black men. Defining mental health, Dr. Alcorn.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I define mental health for Black men as emotional, psychological, relational, and the functional well-being in the context of their lived reality. So this would include the way a man manages his stress, the way he regulates his emotions, how he maintains relationships, makes decisions, and then seeking support when it's needed. I also think we also have to name the context in which Black men experience that. So we have to look at racism, economic strain. We think about community violence, and then chronic role pressure that Black men face daily. I think all of those shape mental health outcomes. And considering that, we have to look at not what's wrong with Black men, but how do Black men experience their emotions? How do they carry that? Do they have adequate support? And so that will help us to move away from like blame to understanding and from stigma to healing. And that's how I define mental health.
All right, so we talk about trauma patterns. From your clinical work, what trauma patterns do you see most often in Black men, and how do they typically show up in daily life?
From my clinical work, the trauma patterns that I see most often are chronic stress exposure. A lot of Black men will talk to me about racial trauma that they have experienced, unresolved childhood adversities, unprocessed grief that they talk about a lot. And they also will talk about survival-based emotional shutdown, And so it doesn't always show up as tears or words. For Black men, most often, we will see irritability, the hypervigilance, sometimes sleep disruption. A lot of Black men will talk about feeling numb and empty, substance use, feeling isolated, and then a lot of conflict in relationships. And for Black men, a lot of Black men are highly functioning, still going to work, but they are deeply wounded emotionally. And so we have to, we don't always see, we cannot always see it, but a lot of times it's the internal things that they're dealing with. Uh, we also have to consider PTSD symptoms a lot of times just based on what they're experiencing daily. So what a lot of times what we may label as anger or isolation in Black men is simply sometimes uh, a trauma mask that they're wearing.
All right. Excellent. So, would you say that there are any type of barriers to Black men receiving treatment?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Um, I think those barriers are not only structural barriers, but there are a lot of internal barriers. And when we talk about the internal barriers, so, Black men, we have been taught, we were told things like, be strong, boys don't cry. And so just over time, society has conditioned us to believe that being vulnerable is a dangerous thing. And so we view seeking help as a weakness. So that's a barrier. And then when we look at those structural barriers, you think about the cost of mental health therapy, uh, insurance gaps, sometimes work schedules is a barrier to Black men going in for therapy, transportation. And then another thing we also have to look at is there's a shortage of Black male therapists. And so representation matters, I feel like, because there is just this mistrust that Black men fear that they'll be misunderstood or judged. And so those are some of the barriers that I see.
Okay. So you'd say that representation and just basically having the infrastructure and support would be some of the. So what type of healing frameworks or therapeutic approaches have you found most effective for Black men?
I think the most effective healing frameworks will be the ones that are going to combine evidence-based treatments with also just that cultural humility and real world relevance. So a lot of Black men will say to me, I'm glad I found someone that looks like me. And so that trauma informed cognitive behavioral approaches, I use that a lot, just helping Black men to recognize those patterns, learning how to regulate stress, and then challenging those survival beliefs that they've had for years that is no longer serving them. Then I also will, one of the other frameworks is helping Black men to understand how the story that they have told themselves about their experiences, and then looking at any cognitive distortions that they may be using to help them reframe their thoughts. For Black men, also group therapy. And that's peer support is also an effective piece as well in helping them to learn and understand trauma they may have experienced and then just reframing so that they can move forward.
Okay. So I'm going to allow everyone else to top this first topic. So the topic is defining mental health. So Pastor Billy Burris, do you have
Yes,
anything
sir.
to add regarding this topic?
Yeah, I think that our friend Dr. Alcorn explained it real good, and you know, but I do think that one of the things is that um, learning how to define who we are learning how to be honest with ourselves. And I think that helps us define it as we are become more honest with ourselves. And that's one of the drawbacks. And as he mentioned, the barriers. That's one of the barriers is being honest with yourself and looking at you and seeing who you are in your relationship, in your work, in whatever whatever aspects that you're doing, and the whole you know I just think that we have such a long ways to go as people um, in defining what mental health is, what mental illness is, because sometimes we try to make that distinction because we don't want to be seen, and that's a whole other issue of stigma as having a mental illness. We don't like that. We don't like that placed upon us. But when you look at the data, so many of us have some some source of some symptoms of mental illness in our lives, whether it be some anxiety disorders, whether it be a phobia, or things like that.
Excellent. So thanks for that, Pastor Burris. Dr. Curtis, Keith, do you have anything to add regarding this topic?
Sir, I appreciate the expansive definition that Dr. Alcorn actually shared with us about mental health, but I think one of the most important things is um, how do we process the experiences? How do we see the experiences that we've had? Experience and our ability to process, deal with, accept, not accept, I think plays a big role in our mental health. And then being able to actually be in a situation or an environment that makes it okay or makes it acceptable for us to acknowledge the fact that as Black men, we hurt. A lot of times, as he said early on, uh, we're told to man up. But you've had some traumatic experiences, you've experienced some pain, you've experienced some loss. How do you man up? So what type of conditioning do you have early on? I think a lot of this can be traced back to our early experiences. What type of conditioning have you had early on that's going to allow you as you get older to deal with your mental health or potential mental health issues in a healthy manner? So I appreciate and support, the information that Dr. Alcorn shared.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis. Keith. Mr. Lloyd, you have anything to share regarding this topic?
The only thing I would add is talk about the stigma. A lot of times we think about people suffering from mental illness is that person walking down the street talking to themselves or somebody that seems irate. I think it's important for us to understand that all of us need to be aware of our own mental health, just like we do our physical health. Be aware that all of us are dealing with something and encourage people to talk and not internalize it.
All right, excellent. So thank you all for lending your voices regarding this specific topic. You gentlemen did an excellent job. So going over the defining some of the challenges, talking about the resources, and some of the things that we could do as a community. Now we're going to transition to our next topic, and that is faith and mental health, breaking the silence and using church as a safe place. So we're going to start off with asking Pastor Billy Burris, um, how can faith communities better integrate spiritual support, mental health awareness for Black men?
Thank you. And I think one of the issues is understanding and knowledge. Sometimes we shoo mental health, mental illness away from our churches because of lack of understanding. Many of our churches, and being a pastor, and then a mental health professional at the same time. We have to be willing to open up, I believe, our churches to workshops, to conferences dealing with this issue, because and I've did numerous conferences at churches and workshops, and letting them know that everybody in your congregation has been touched by this issue of mental health, mental illness. Everyone, and it's just that whole stigma of not wanting um, 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 to look at that, not wanting to understand that. And then the whole issue of getting treatment, the whole stigma of treatment, especially in our Black communities, where we don't want to do that, or we go to the wrong people rather than going to a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, clinical social worker. Then we want to go to our general practitioners, who many times don't have the expertise to give the right psychotropic medications for those individuals. So one of the things is clearly training, workshops, trying to get us on the same page. Because I've had pastors call me about some of their members that were exhibiting some symptoms, and sometimes disruptive. And what I tell so many pastors is that mental illness is a health disorder. And so, just like somebody who broke their leg in church, you would send them to the ER. You would give them the treatment that they needed. And the same is with those that have a mental illness. You do your best to get them to the treatment that is going to help them. It's amazing. In the last 3 weeks, I've dealt with families, not my members, the people who know me, and trying to get their loved ones into treatment, and whether that be a civil commitment, or if they would be willing to be committed involuntarily, or with outpatient treatment as well. So it's just that understanding, trying to get the word out, trying to get our pastors, churches to understand that it is a health disorder. It is not a stigma. It shouldn't be a stigma tied to it. And when people understand, then they're willing to come forward and ask for the needed help to get their loved one some treatment that they so desperately need.
All right, thanks for that. So, just gonna ask this next question about, what role can pastors play? You kind of touched on it, but what roles can pastors play collaboratively to address this issue?
We have to be open to it. We have to be open to it, and we have to be willing to learn more about it. As pastors, we have to be willing to learn more about it, and not put our heads in the sand and feel like it's going to go away, because it's not. And so we have to be willing to and tell our members about it, because sometimes we want to shoo it away. We want those individuals to not come to our churches. Well, that's wrong. And so we need to do all we can to get our members and other pastors involved, and letting them know how important this is in our Black communities. And we have so many things in our Black communities that are critical at this time. But this is one of those things, because we have so many people. We have a lack of beds in our communities for individuals. We have a lack of programs out there for communities. And I think Dr. Alcorn brought it up earlier. Insurance is an issue in our community, as well as it relates to getting the needed treatment for those individuals that have a mental illness.
Thank
Can
you
I
for
jump
that.
in right there?
Is that?
Can I jump in? Because he just said
Yeah.
something that
made me think how much of our criminal justice system is really a mental health need, and they are in our prisons instead of getting the adequate medical care. So, can the panelists speak to that?
Absolutely. um, being directing forensic services at the state hospital and for the division for over 20 years, yes. And you're absolutely right. And now that is more so in our, or has been in our juvenile justice system. I was a part of um, a a research some years ago looking at juvenile justice systems and through a number of states, because at that time juvenile justice systems were being sued because they had so many young folk in them who had mental health problems, and they of course the symptoms came out as behavioral problems. But yeah, you're right. And now, of course, in our forensic system, which is a determination of somebody who's in the criminal court system to determine if they're competent not to stand trial. But the reality is, you can be competent, stand trial, and still have a mental illness. And so then you have to receive that treatment in the in our in the Department of Corrections, in our jails. Our jails throughout Arkansas. In each, we have so many of our jails who are housing people who have a mental illness, and they may be there for low-level crimes, but there's no. Many times there's no connection in getting that person the treatment that they need while in jail. Because and the reality is many of our jails do not have the staff. Many of them are larger jails, do not have the pharmaceuticals to really treat some of these cases of schizophrenia and other illnesses. They may not, may have older, some of the older drugs and not some of the newer psychotropics that are on the market now. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and it just kind of bleeds over. And we have one hospital in this state, and that's the state hospital that has that is a basically the whole hospital basically is turned into a forensic hospital, rather than accepting those individuals on civil commitments as well. We have very few people in the state hospital that are there on civil commitments.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. So anyone else have anything to share regarding our faith and how our spiritual or religious leaders can address mental health and some of the challenges that we face before we go to the next topic?
I would just like to say that I am happy to see that more and more pastors are embracing mental health and they are talking about it in their congregations. I have participated in trainings and workshops with Pastor Bears, Bishop Lloyd, and so I'm happy to see that the faith community is embracing mental health and we're starting to talk about it. It's important that we in the faith community create safe spaces for men, Black men, to be able to say, hey, I am not okay, and get the support that they need.
Absolutely, and let me say this, and Dr. Alcorn is absolutely right, and the issue, and what he said about safe spaces, and that I can feel safe in my congregation, and I'm willing to tell my pastor or somebody in in that congregation to um, um, get that safety, because everybody that comes to church ought to feel that this is a place where I can find hope and peace if I can't find it anywhere else, and we have to support that.
And may I also say that this has been on the forefront of our minds in the NAACP, the Religious Affairs Committee. we hosted a mental health workshop session in Malvern, Arkansas, and we just had an overwhelming response. And we had people asking, when are we going to have our next one? And we're going to try to move it around the state. So we're just grateful for the partnership of the faith community as well as the mental health community. It's just really awesome.
Absolutely.
May I add two things to what Mr. Burris has said, acknowledging the pastors on here. So certainly none of the pastors would, I think, would approach this, but a lot of times we tell people just to pray about it. You know, prayer, and I truly believe in prayer, but prayer and mental health uh, can go hand in hand. Prayer and a mental health therapist can definitely go hand in hand. And I think a lot of times churches are, it's almost like they're territorial or they're possessive. They don't want their uh, it seems that sometimes they don't want their members to go outside of whatever the services or whatever they offer there at the church. So I'm glad to see the religious community actually stepping in, to realize that sometimes, uh, especially with, and again, no disrespect to the ministers that actually provide counseling, but sometimes the ministers don't have the ability to provide the type of therapy, the type of counseling that potentially their church members need. So I'm glad to see that. And then going back to, I think the question was asked about the jail systems or whatever. Quality Living Center, we're a residential drug and alcohol treatment facility, and we actually, individuals come out of prison, out of Pulaski County Jail, out of local jails into Quality Living Center. There is a large majority of those individuals that dually diagnose substance use and
Mhm.
mental health. The unfortunate thing is they're not getting the treatment in jail, in prison that they need. So they'll show up at Quality Living Center's door and all of a sudden they're in crisis. And Quality Living Center has to decide or determine or work to see what can we do. Generally, when they come out of prison, out of jail, they don't have any type of insurance. Now, they may have applied for insurance, but it generally takes 30 days for that insurance to kick in. So Quality Living Center is left trying to figure out, what is it that we can do to help this individual stabilize until they can actually get into a routine or a regimen of their mental health meds and things like that. And once upon a time, I think it's probably 6 months ago, the Crisis Stabilization Center closed. We were able to
Yes.
send people up there,
Yes.
to get their medications, med management and things like that. Right now, we don't have anything. The state is not bursting at the seams trying to help these individuals with substance use and mental health disorders. So it's a need, it's a crisis out here, and the state is continually defunding programs that would actually help these individuals because it seems that the powers that be, that's not a concern of theirs. So it's a need for uh, programs or information sharing like this, and maybe something will come out where we'll know Quality Living Center somebody can tell us what we can do to actually help those individuals out.
May I say something on that? You mentioned the crisis center closing. The Public Safety Commission. Um, I'm a commissioner on that Little Rock Public Safety Commission, and we are working with MIMS and some other stakeholders, trying to see how we can encourage. We hope either St. Vincent's or Baptist or somebody to take that on, because when that closed, it was devastating to our community, because so many, just like you're saying, so many individuals could go there, get what they needed, get stabilized, and then come out and get back involved in treatment. So that was a hurting process to our community when that crisis center closed. And the other thing is that, and you mentioned this already, pastors are not the end all. We don't know everything, and 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 hear me now. We as pastors have to understand that. We have to understand that I don't have the answer to everything. That I should have every pastor ought to have a referral source, because prayer, I agree, prayer is great. Prayer, I mean, I pray all the time, but I tell my members that that you pray, and why in the world would our Lord and Savior give knowledge to therapists, to clinicians out there, if He didn't want us to go there? Because that He
Come on,
sends
somebody.
people. Yeah, he sends us to people to help them. And it's not just in the confines of the church, and it's not just praying and then telling that person to go home and keep praying. That's ridiculous.
All right, I got a question by President Jefferson, and we're gonna
Yeah,
transition to the
yeah.
next topic.
Yeah, thank you for grabbing me. Just real quick, I'm just thinking because I think most of us talking about Central Arkansas. We have all these resources and how have these things in Central Arkansas. My biggest concern, and I want to ask all the panelists, what about outside Central Arkansas? Those areas like the Deltas and the areas up in Northeast Arkansas where they don't have access to these resources that we have in Central Arkansas. How have you all been reaching out to those areas that need the sources, that need these resources, that need that support, and different things like that? If you can help me with that, give me some
Great
guidance on that.
question.
Good question.
Yes, there is a big need in the rural communities for providers. I was just out on Wednesday and Thursday in a rural part of the state. They were talking about the lack of providers in the area and the big need. One way to mitigate that is telehealth. For those
Yeah.
individuals can't access that. But then also the other barrier is in rural communities, the internet services are not available. And so we're going to have to come up with a plan to be able to go into these rural communities to provide services.
I I agree. I was asked to do a workshop down in Magnolia for some churches who had come together, and they had so many questions, so many. And we used to have at one time in our mental health system, we had community mental health centers throughout the state. In every county, there was either a full-time or part-time mental health clinic in every county some years ago. That doesn't exist now. And the gentleman mentioned the funding, which is not there. But there's got to be a way that we can collaborate and come together. And Dr. Alcorn mentioned it, telehealth. But then, of course, like you said, some of those areas don't have internet connections, and so that's a travesty. And so the sad part is that so many times for a person to get mental health services in some of our rural counties is for that individual to commit a crime, okay, and get into the court system and go through the forensic system. That should not be the way to get treatment. But I've seen that happen time and time again. But the person does get treatment, but the crime has to happen for the person to get into the system to get that treatment. That ought not happen. But it does. It does. It continues to happen. And so we have to just get that, um, develop collaboratives or something to get that treatment, get those individuals the treatment that they need in those areas. And I'm open to help in that in any way, but it has to happen. It should happen.
All right, I'm going to transition to the next topic: leadership pressures. We're going to start off with Dr. Curtis. How do leadership expectations at work, home, and in the community impact mental health of Black men? And we talk about workplace stress as well. So, Dr. Curtis.
And thank you, and I appreciate that question. And trust, I did some research, but I'm aware that our time is really going by, so I'm gonna give you a real condensed answer. And one of the biggest things it seems when it comes to Black men, and that's at work, in the home, in the community, we're asked to do a whole lot. We're asked to support a lot of people. Um, we're asked to be financial providers. We're asked to be in the workplace. We're asked to be twice as good, to get half as far. In the community, we want Black men to be above reproach. We can't have had any type of scars, any type of anything, and we're asking Black men to be all of this, uh, but who's there to support us? You know, we want we want Black men to be mentors. We want to be coaches. We want them to be that. But a lot of times that conditions the Black male to be emotionless. So because I've got to show up for everybody else, I've got to be strong for everybody else. Then who's there to support me? And I think that's across the board when it comes to how Black men appear in leadership or in the community or in the home, uh, that and things like that.
All right. So anyone else have anything to add regarding leadership? Can you hear me?
Yeah. You know, the brothers are absolutely right, and but and one of the things I think is developing mentorship among each other, developing camaraderie among each other, and being able to talk about the pressures of family, um, church, work, being able to talk about those pressures among each other so that we'll have a good sound, a good, wise sounding board for each other. And many of us, many Black men, don't have that. Dr. Curtis was absolutely right. Many of us don't have that, and haven't had that, haven't grown up to have that. And that's something that we ought to try to instill in our younger Black men, to be there for each other, through good and bad times, and to be able to uplift each other along the way.
All right. So any type of preventive mental health strategies? For everyone, anyone have any type of preventive mental health strategies that you would like to offer up?
When you say preventive mental health strategies, because I'm trying to think which way do we go go with that?
Prior to when stress becomes overwhelming.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Um, well, I guess the question to me is, how do we deal with stress?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I trained police officers for some 25 years on mental health issues and mental health and such as that. Both training at the academy in Little Rock and then the academy in Camden. And one of the things that I would talk about so much is stress, and how do we deal with our own stress as Black men? How do we deal with our own stress? Because all of us have stress in some form or fashion. How do we deal with it? And what are we willing to? What time are we willing to put in to deal with the stress that we have in our own individual lives?
Yeah, I think what we're doing today is also a strategy of prevention
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
normalizing these conversations and having these
Absolutely.
conversations so that Black men know that whatever you're feeling, whatever you're dealing with, it is okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to transition to the next topic. Let's start off with Mr. Matthew Lloyd, youth and mental health. What mental health challenges do you see emerging earliest in Black boys, and how can families intervene sooner?
Thank you. A lot of what I see in the Black boys is what a lot of people have already talked about. Um, they're often taught to be strong, don't show emotion. They're often taught to handle your problems on your own, protect your family. And even though they struggle, they don't feel comfortable talking about those feelings. I can remember one day my 5-year-old grandson my wife had redirected him and he sat down on the floor with his head down. And he said, "I'm frustrated." And so me being a mental health counselor, I went to him, sat beside him, and I had him to process those feelings. But a lot of times, what we're told, we've been told, you better get up and do what I told you to do, and we're brushed off. One of the things I think we as parents have to understand is children suffer from depression, anxiety, and all these things as well. A lot of times we go through certain traumas like death and loss, and we deal with it as adults, but we don't. Children are still playing, they're still going about, but we don't understand that they're dealing with it also. And the instability in the home, they're able to pick up on.
And so, what role do you think Black fathers could play addressing the youth?
To be an example, talk about their feelings, apologize when they make mistakes, let them see the vulnerable side of them sometimes, and yet be strong. Teach them how to um, regulate their emotions by being an example. A lot of times, children act in certain ways because they want that attention, and the negative attention is attention too. A lot of times, we also see in our schools, children might be dealing with depression, anxiety, all these things, but it's their behaviors are presented. Problematic behaviors, anger outbursts, all these things. And then the behavior is dealt with rather than the mental illness. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's in other areas, but in our area, especially with the young Black boys, they're shipped over to an alternative school. And then still yet they're not getting the treatment that they need. And am of the, I understand that if you take care of the problem, then the behaviors will take care of themselves. So fathers can be involved. Somebody had mentioned them being coaches and doing these things. That is very instrumental in letting the children know that they matter.
All right, so this is for all the panelists. Anyone have anything to add regarding youth and, some of the challenges that they face and things to address those issues?
All of our youth are not bad. We have some brilliant youth,
Yeah.
and we and what Brother Lord said absolutely right, and we need to uplift them and let them know how much we care about them and how much we want them to succeed, and that ought to be our sounding board, letting them know that, and when they make a mistake, we've all made mistakes. So we need to let them know that's not the end of the world, but we're gonna be there for you. We're gonna be there supporting you to make those right decisions. But they also have to see us make right decisions in our lives and in the lives of their fathers as well, and mothers.
Thank you for your perspective, gentlemen, and Mr. Lloyd. Now we're going to go into a cross-panel discussion. Couple of topics I want you all to think about is shared experiences. What is one of the misconceptions about Black men's mental health you wish the public understood?
For me, one of the things is that silence does not equal strength. Just because, we are functioning, we're showing up, going to work every day, that does not equate to good mental health. And so again, we have to create these safe spaces for us to be able to talk to one another and reach out and get the help that we need. Endurance alone that's not what is going to keep us alive. We have to be well in all areas. And so I think we have to move away from the myth that silence equals strength.
Other thing I think is important is um, self-care, going fishing, um, being out with friends, just kind of have that away time, that time to refresh. I think that's very important as well. Eating right. We deal with high blood pressure, all these things, and stress contributes to it, but also how we eat. Somebody had mentioned, put in the comments, exercise. That's a good way to relieve stress and be healthier, mentally, physically, emotionally.
So next one will be community solution. Oh, go
Can I
ahead.
mention something, Rick? And absolutely to both those, but and I want to it just on my mind, and Dr. Alcorn mentioned early in the session, and that was PTSD. When we lose someone, when something tragic happens in our lives, we have to be willing um, to know that I may need some help getting through that process. And all have talked about it today. The whole issue of be strong. Well, and but when you're going through a some hurt, wherever that hurt may be, losing a job, losing a spouse, losing a parent, losing a child, whatever that hurt may be, um, we have to be willing to say that I need some help going through that, and not just try to make it alone. And I think we've all talked about this in some form or fashion, but I just want to bring that up again, and that because PTSD is real, and it's also real in children also who have seen some horrific things in their lives, and they keep those things, and that those symptoms come out in I think Brother Lloyd mentioned those symptoms come out in behavioral tendencies at times.
All right, next topic will be community solutions. What is one community-based solution you believe could make the biggest difference right now?
I think a community-based solution, we really have to move away from being reactive to being more proactive. We're good at always reacting, but we haven't put things in place to be proactive. And I think that that's what we should be looking at is how can we be more proactive. And lastly, I'll say this is that no one should have to wait until they are in crisis to seek therapy.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
we have to move away from that notion that you have to be in crisis in order to seek therapy. And you do not have to be in crisis to seek therapy.
And I think that what goes along with that is uh, if we can remove the stigma about what it means to seek mental health counseling, uh, especially in the minority community, we think you again, you're crazy, whatever. You hurt. And sometimes when you hurt, you need somebody to help you process and not judge. So I think as a community, if we can remove the stigma from individuals seeking counseling and say, hey, I think that's a big start right there, because I can't tell you how many people, Black guys I've spoken with, and well, I'm not crazy. Why you got to be crazy to see a counselor? No, you're crazy to not see a counselor. So, so no, I think that would go a long way if we could help start removing the stigma from individuals seeking counseling.
All right. So the last one.
Can I mention something? What one Dr. Alcorn needs to expand his business. That he needs to do that. I'll put that out there. And and one, what happens with and being an adjunct in the past? What about our collaboration with higher education and getting them involved in this process, in especially in rural areas, in their curriculum? Um, I mean, how do we? And that's something that how do we do that? How do we get our higher education facilities, our philanders, our PBs? How do we get them involved in their curriculum to help some of this process that we're talking about, and try to get that in line with their curriculums to help offset some of the lack of services that we have in our rural areas, especially, or in our um, low income areas in Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, in those Pine Bluff, in those areas. And that was just a question, but that's something that at some time or another, somebody in NAACP needs to make that connection to see how we can come together, and that they can be a part of the strategy to resolve some of these issues that we're having.
All right. And the next one will be, perfect segue, a call to action. If every man listening today, one step toward better mental health this week, what should it be? So we took one step forward, and we already kind of addressed it throughout, but a call to action. If every man listening today took one step toward better mental health this week, what should it be?
Yeah, I think Pastor Burrs alluded to it earlier when he said that one, we have to be honest with ourselves, right? And I think that's where we should start, is to start naming what we are carrying, and being honest with ourselves.
Anyone else?
Well, I think that's a personal assessment.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to do. I think we all need to do. We encourage people to do a personal assessment,
Yeah.
and if it comes back, I'm not okay. It's okay not to be okay, but what do I do with that information? Uh, Take the first step.
Thing I would add is to be aware of family members and those ones that don't seem to be okay. If they're starting to withdraw, or changes in eating habits and different things like that, I think we ought to watch out for one another.
All right. So now we got closing.
More meetings like this, to get the word out.
And we have audience. We have we're now open the floor to questions from the audience, those who have chimed in.
We had a comment come in on Facebook. I don't know if anybody's watching that thread, but Tracy Sean said, I would suggest a mental health bus tour, especially over the weekend. And that sounds like a great idea. We can charter a bus and go to some of these far-flung areas that we mentioned previously to just meet those communities. So I like that idea. Does anybody want to touch on that? Well, we've got exec committee. We'll talk about it in our exec because we need some money to do that.
Yes, sir. I
Um,
mean, that's a great idea. It's needed. Um, we have hosted our Thrive forums in a couple of the communities, and we've gotten a great response. People are wanting to talk about this. People are wanting resources. They're wanting help. They're wanting to know where to go to get their loved ones help. And so it is needed. That's a great idea.
Thank you, Tracy Sean, for that comment. I had a couple of questions, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but just real quick, I don't know if our panelists are aware of the concept of epigenetics, the idea that traumas we've endured over generations kind of manifest in physical and psychological ways. So, can anybody speak to that? And then my second question is, as you all know, we're living in unprecedented times currently. So, have you seen changes in your practices uh, because of that? And what are we doing to kind of address the day and times we're living in?
One of the changes that I've seen in our practice here at Thrive is over the last few years, and this is a good thing, is that we have seen an increase in Black males that are accessing mental health services at Thrive, and so that's a good thing. One of the things that we hear is contributing to that is just the things that Black men face daily when we look at the racial trauma, when we look at the microaggressions in the workplace that Black men face. But we've seen in the last few years, it's trending upward where more Black men in Central Arkansas are accessing mental health services.
One of the things that I've seen in the last year, um, and that is from people who just know me and knew me, whether it be adjunct or the hospital, is that the difficulty in maneuvering through the mental health system. And so I've helped numerous families who've called me to get their loved ones the treatment that they need, try to maneuver through the mental health system. And the reality is, maneuvering through it is not an easy task, especially for those individuals who have either no insight or lack of insight into their illness. And that's a difficult task. That's a difficult task. So I've seen that more over the last couple of years, and people calling me and trying to get their loved one into some treatment. And again, it's just not an easy task. And I don't know how we resolve that. That will take time. That will take time, especially again when you are dealing with somebody who has no insight into the illness that they actually have.
Let me jump in real quick. Just a couple of things. One thing I know we're getting towards the end, and I need to go ahead and say my thank you to panelists right now for joining us and everything. And I think we shouldn't stop this conversation here. I think, and I'm going to work with the health committee and see if we can do a segment at our convention. So I would love to us to do a segment in our convention because there's a lot of men that's not here that's in rural areas. I think we need to have this conversation so they can hear the conversation and have those questions in front. So I know I got the co-chair of the conventions here. So I want to make sure they understand that we want to do this same segment at our convention in October, because I think this would be a good opportunity that we can come together and bring this in front of everyone so we can really have a really dialogue. And I think that's going to be very, very important. Witherspoon, I love the bus tour. I think that's a great idea. I think the question I have for each one of you is is um, if you can say some of the hardest things you are going through right now in your field to get the service for the people that you need, what would be some of those issues the hardest you going through right now trying to provide service to the people that you are trying to provide service to?
Mine, right offhand, and I mentioned it earlier, and that is getting services, getting treatment to for someone who has no insight into the illness, and maneuvering the family, helping the family maneuver through the mental health system, whether in the court, and the filings, and helping them do that, which is not an easy task. And the other part of that is that you have to testify against your loved one, and so that's never a good thing. And the other is families. I've worked with two families about guardianship, because their loved one does not want treatment, does not want to talk about treatment, and is clearly psychotic. And that's a hard thing for families to look at that, because you have to be in court and say that. And that's a difficult task, especially for parents. That's a difficult task.
Can I hear from the other panelists? Because Dr. Barris, I do want to say this. I totally agree with you 100%. I'm in the same position right now because my mother had guardianship of my nephew, and my nephew was artistic that she and trying to get the service that he need and provide it and stuff like that because he's going through some mental issues is
Hmm.
very difficult and
Yes,
very hard. And if you don't have guardianship, there's so much you can do. So it can be very, very hard, and especially if they don't want it. And if they
absolutely.
pushing back on it, and the system is so hard to intertwine there. So I totally agree with you on that. I see that. But I do want to hear from the other panelists, if that's okay.
Think, what I would say is one of the things that, well, I would say two things, and this would go along with Pastor Burrs. I think being proactive instead of reactive. A lot of times, the clients we see or the clients I see, uh, most often they're already in crisis. Now they saw it coming, but or they had a feeling it was there, and they wait until it gets to the crisis level, and I think that makes it harder to be objective, and reaching a better place in your life. And then the other thing is consistency. A lot of times individuals, they're in crisis. They'll come to us, they'll do the intake, and they won't come back, or they won't. They'll come back 2 months later. Well, what have you done with those 2 months? So, being proactive and being consistent in making sure that you're doing what you need to do to make sure you're a healthy individual.
So Curtis, I'm sorry, Dr. Keith, I'm sorry.
You're fine. I know you.
Um, tell me, I know you do something unique. You provide a service that's very unique. And what is some of the dilemmas you have having trying to provide that service? And I know some of the resources and insurance and things like that. If we as the NAACP can support you in some kind of way to help you, because we got people out there that's hurting and that need help and stuff like that. Because we really want to think about this because this is very important. What are some of the I guess inroads you're hitting to provide those services to those people?
Well, as you know, we do substance abuse. So I do my day job is residential drug and alcohol treatment, and most of my clients are dually diagnosed. As I mentioned earlier, the state of Arkansas, the federal government has cut back extensively on funding for individuals that don't have insurance. Once upon a time, Arkansas provided it was through a block grant where they provided millions of dollars for individuals, for low-income individuals that did not have insurance to get residential drug and alcohol treatment. That has been cut back. Uh, our contract goes from October 1st to September 30th. Um, Most agencies uh, ran out of money the first of, well, say into February. Just so happened, and now self-disclosure, I made a mistake. I thought we were out of money, and I found out that I'd made a mistake, and we did have a little extra money, so our funding will probably run out the end of June. Well, we'll go from July 1st to September 30th, where if you don't have insurance, we don't have a funding source for that individual to come to treatment. When they come to treatment, we try to address that whole individual. We will refer them to mental health services. We will refer them to housing or whatever. But if we can't ever get them in there, in the door, because we don't have a funding source or they don't have a funding source, that makes it difficult on our agency. And don't we're looking at fundraisers. We've got a big fundraiser coming up. It's called our Salute to Recovery. We're doing that September 26th, where we're inviting the community. We're trying to tell our story that funding has been cut, so we're looking for different opportunities to provide services because individuals need it. Individuals need it. We're looking at grant opportunities, so we're working, trying to work with the community to actually, develop or identify a different funding source. And it's just a process. So if the NAACP wants to partner with Quality Living Center and our Salute to Recovery, get a table, or you can direct me to a funding source that would actually help be for those individuals that don't have insurance, then we're open to it. We'll welcome that.
One of the challenges that we see, we provide Thrive. We're located in Jacksonville, providing outpatient behavioral health care. And one of the challenges is families, lack of insurance. Sometimes the lack of ability to pay for services. I try to provide some pro bono services. And so that's a challenge that we face. Another challenge sometimes is that we have a lot of teenagers, elementary, middle school, high school students to come here. But sometimes the challenge is not the youth. Sometimes it's the follow through with the parent and getting the parent to engage in those family sessions. So when we start requesting and requiring the family sessions, then sometimes the parent will not follow through. And so for us, it's disheartening because you're wanting us to assist your child, but we're sending them right back into the same environment. And so if we're not addressing the family as a whole, sometimes it's counterproductive.
Dr. Alcorn, I'm sorry. Please provide I'm sorry, I'm having some tech issues. The specific address to your practice, and all of you share some information about your practices.
Yeah, so Thrive Counseling and Consulting Services, we're located at 607 North First Street in Jacksonville, Arkansas. We provide individual, family, group therapy. We provide premarital and relationship counseling. We treat anything from anxiety, depression to more serious mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. So we provide a wide range of services, but we're located in Jacksonville. We also provide telehealth services. We have clients from around the state of Arkansas that we provide telehealth services to as well.
Dr. Key?
Okay, we're Quality Living Center. We provide residential drug and alcohol treatment and transitional living. Our main office is at 3925 Asher Avenue. Of course, that's Little Rock, Arkansas, 72204. Our office phone number, 501-663-3490. And our website is, of course, www.qualitylivingcentertreatment.com. And we are a nonprofit. So we're licensed facility nonprofit.
Mr. Lloyd, please share your practice information.
My practice is Secure Foundation Counseling. We're in Jonesboro, Arkansas. We provide counseling from ages 2 all the way up. We have two therapists that are able to work with children under 4 years old. We provide play therapy as well as PFCBT and other trauma-related therapy. We also offer EMDR as a choice as well. We have a program that we're starting back on track, and some of the things that we've talked about today is something that Back on Track tries to tackle. We try to be proactive, and the program is geared toward children that are at risk of going into the legal system, some that are in the legal system, and then the reentry program. We collaborate with other agencies in the community to provide um, health benefits, also to provide mentors, and we have a summer group, and we also have to have after school groups as well. And during those times, we have like anger management, social skills, and practical living skills.
Thank you. Pastor Burris, would you like to share any information about your ministry, your practice, how you're involved in the community and how the audience can connect with you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I pastor St. Peter Missionary Baptist Church. We're here in Little Rock on 3518 West 7th Street. And our number is 501-664-6056. And I still work with families, whether it be individual or marital counseling, premarital counseling. And I'm a commissioner on the Little Rock's Public Safety Commission. So still involved in the community, and just trying to be there, trying to help uplift our community and the people in our community.
Thank you. I'm going to yield the floor. I know I kind of interjected a little bit, but our moderator and our host and our state president, would you gentlemen like to have any words or any closing statements? I will say that all of your information, and thank you for putting in the chat, will be shared on our social media platforms so that our audience and our followers can know how to reach you all. So this information will be shared. But I'll yield the floor to our state president, our second vice president, and our moderator at this time for closing.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us. I do truly appreciate y'all for jumping on and being a part of this great conversation. I think it's very needed, but I really want all four of you, if you can, to look at your calendar between October the 1st to the 3rd, because that's our convention. Someone will be reaching out to you to ask you to be one of our panelists for this conversation, the same conversation that we need to have. So Nicole or Clarissa or Dr. Nettles will be reaching out to you all to see if you're available, because I think we want to have the same conversation at our convention. I think is that important. So again, I want to thank you all. Anything that the NAACP can do to support you all or help you all, reach out to us. Let us know. We are here to support you and give you any kind of support you need, because on a national level, we do care about minority health. And one part of that minority health is mental health. And I think that's very important. our national director of the health. She is really focused on public health, and she really focused on making sure we give you the tools and support that you need to get the quality service to the people. So we want to make sure we are doing that. So we want to make sure you reach out to us, let us know what we can do to help you. Each one of you have great branches in your locations. Little Rock have a great branch. Jacksonville, you have a great branch. Actually, the Jacksonville, your office is right down the road from the Jacksonville office, like 5 blocks. They're at 601 First Street. So I see you at 607 First. So you're right down the road. So all of you all are in Jonesboro have a branch. So all of you all have a branch near you. So I encourage you to be a part and join a branch. Become a member to help us fight this fight because we can't do it alone. We can do it together, and we can do a lot more together than apart. So I'm asking you to do
Absolutely.
that. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Moderator, and Mr. Second Vice President. We do truly appreciate you. God bless you.
Second Vice President, before we close, would you like to have a word before we close?
Yes, thank you, Neto, for this. This was awesome. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to President Jefferson for his continued leadership. We had a question in the chat about will this be put on our social media, and it is streaming live on our Facebook page, and it will be preserved there. So please share this to your media contacts. Also, someone mentioned earlier that there is a lack of Black mental health practitioners. Uh, so the people that are on this panel today would be a great start uh, if we're looking. But also, I'll chat Psychology Today. You can go on there and you can search for a therapist through geographic location. You can search by ethnicity. You can search by specialty. So it's really a great resource if someone's looking for themselves or someone else. So I just wanted to make that available for people, psychologytoday.com. Just thank everybody for their participation today. This is definitely not the end, it's just the beginning. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And again, thank you to our expert panelists, our state president for allowing us to have this discussion, and all of our participants, Second Vice President Weatherspoon, as well as our moderator, Mr. Kendrick Lusk. Thank you again to Dr. Alcorn, Dr. Keith, Mr. Lloyd, and Pastor Burris. God bless you all, and you will be hearing from us soon. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Nicole, do you have any directives or any comments?